In the heart of West Africa, a conflict rages that most of the world has never heard of. The Hausa-Fulani conflict has claimed more lives than many recognized wars, yet its story remains largely untold. But this isn't just another tribal dispute. It's the explosive result of colonial engineering that deliberately carved up communities and created artificial divisions. To understand today's violence, we need to travel back over 1,000 years. The Hausa people established some of Africa's most prosperous city-states across what is now northern Nigeria. They were master traders, linking North Africa with the kingdoms of the south. Their cities, like Kano and Zaria, became centers of learning and commerce. Meanwhile, the Fulani were nomadic pastoralists, moving their cattle across the Sahel with the seasons. For centuries, these two groups lived in remarkable harmony. The Hausa farmers would welcome Fulani herders, who brought valuable fertilizer for their fields. In return, the Fulani could graze their cattle and access water sources. Intermarriage was common, trade flourished, and their cultures blended beautifully. This symbiotic relationship lasted for hundreds of years. Then came the Europeans. In 1885, European powers gathered in Berlin to carve up Africa like a birthday cake. They drew lines on maps with no regard for the people actually living there. The British claimed what would become Nigeria, splitting Hausa and Fulani communities across artificial borders. But here's where it gets sinister. Colonial administrators didn't just ignore ethnic boundaries, they deliberately exploited them. They implemented a policy called indirect rule, governing through traditional leaders. But they handpicked which leaders to empower, often favoring one group over another. In northern Nigeria, they backed Fulani Islamic rulers, giving them authority over Hausa communities. This disrupted the delicate balance that had existed for centuries. The British also introduced new economic systems that favored certain groups. They designated some areas for farming and others for grazing, restricting the ancient patterns of movement. Land that had been communal for generations suddenly had owners and boundaries. When independence came in 1960, Nigeria inherited these artificial divisions. The new nation was essentially 3 colonial territories forced into one. Politicians quickly learned to exploit ethnic differences for votes. They promised benefits to their own ethnic groups while marginalizing others. The first cracks appeared almost immediately. By the 1960s, violence was breaking out across the north. Climate change has made everything worse. The Sahara Desert is expanding southward by about 48 kilometers per year. This forces Fulani herders to push further south into traditionally Hausa farming areas. Competition for shrinking resources has turned neighbors into enemies. But here's what makes this conflict so tragic. DNA studies show that Hausa and Fulani people share remarkable genetic similarity. Centuries of intermarriage mean many families have both Hausa and Fulani ancestry. The differences that fuel today's violence are largely artificial, created by colonial manipulation. Yet the killing continues. In 2018 alone, this conflict killed more people than Boko Haram terrorism. Entire communities have been displaced, their traditional ways of life destroyed. Children grow up knowing only conflict between groups that once lived as one. The pattern repeats across Africa, wherever colonial borders split ethnic groups. Rwanda, Sudan, Somalia all bear similar scars from artificial boundaries. Some communities are finding ways to heal. Traditional conflict resolution methods, nearly lost, are being revived. Young people are rejecting the ethnic divisions their grandparents never knew. Economic programs that benefit both farmers and herders are showing promise. But progress remains fragile. Politicians still find it profitable to stoke ethnic tensions during elections. Social media now spreads ethnic hatred faster than ever before. The weapons may be more sophisticated, but the underlying problem remains the same. Artificial divisions created by colonialism continue to tear communities apart. Understanding this history is crucial for anyone trying to make sense of modern Africa. These conflicts aren't ancient tribal hatreds. They're the direct result of colonial policies. The Hausa and Fulani conflict shows us how artificial borders can turn friends into enemies. But it also shows us that what was artificially created can be artificially healed. The question is whether Africa's leaders will choose unity over division, whether they'll build bridges instead of walls. The people of West Africa deserve better than to inherit colonial mistakes. They deserve the peace their ancestors knew for centuries before the Europeans arrived. The untold story of the Hausa-Fulani conflict is really the story of how colonialism's wounds still bleed. But like all wounds, with proper care and attention, they can heal.